We're looking at the goods market model. We talked about the two main components in the goods market model. The first one we talked about was Z, which represents total demand for goods or aggregate demand. And we talked about each of its components, C, I, G, and NX. Then we talked about the second component of our model, which is the 45-degree line. We want to now finally start moving on and talking about the goods market equilibrium. Now, the equilibrium condition for the goods market is Z, which represents our total demand for goods or aggregate demand, is equal to Y, which is output. Now we look at how do we find this equilibrium level of output in the goods market model. First, mathematically, and then we look at it graphically. When we look at it graphically, that's where the 45-degree line will come. So let's look at how do we find the equilibrium level of output in the goods market model mathematically. Because remember, we said the goal in this model is to determine the equilibrium level of output. So let's see how do we do that mathematically. For mathematically, we just said Z is equal to Y because like we said, the equilibrium condition for the goods market is given as Z is equal to Y. So to find the equilibrium level of output mathematically, we just said C is equal to Y. So let's now mathematically find equilibrium Y in our standard goods market model, in which we have a linear consumption function, and investment, government spending, and taxes are taken as exogenously given. So like we said, equilibrium output is given by the goods market equilibrium condition Y is equal to Z, or like we said, Y is output or income, Z is total demand for goods or aggregate demand, where Z is made up of C, I, G, and X. Now, in this case, where we're looking at the standard goods market, so we first need the demand function Z, right? So in this case, when we're looking at the standard goods market model, like we said, T is exogenously given, so we have lump sum autonomous taxes. C is given as a linear function or disposable income, so I just plug in a T bar here, and we just simplify a consumption function a bit in terms of Y like this over here. Then I, G are exogenously given, net exports are zero, because in the standard goods market model, we're looking at a closed economy. So then Z, which is C plus I plus G, can just be simplified as follows, where we already discussed that the part of demand which does not depend upon Y is known as autonomous spending, right? So in order to find equilibrium level of output, we know the condition is that Y is equal to Z, right? So we first find a demand function Z, which under the assumptions of our standard goods market model is this. So depending upon the assumptions in the model, you can find your demand function. Then equilibrium Y is given as Y is equal to Z. Here we'll just plug in the demand function Z we found, and then from here we just make Y the subject, and we can find equilibrium level of output. So this is how we can mathematically find equilibrium level of output. All we need to do is find a demand function Z and set it equal to Y.